says President Donald Trump cut funding from the Justice Department to investigate these domestic terrorist groups, these white supremacist groups. By Amy Sherman on Thursday, April 11, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Senator Cory Booker speaks during a town hall meeting in Rock Hill, South Carolina, on Saturday, March 23, 2019. AP, Senator Cory Booker said President Donald Trump has made it harder for the federal government to go after domestic terrorist groups, for Donald Trump to cut funding from the Justice Department to investigate. I mean, he talks about terrorism all the time, but to cut funding to investigate these domestic terrorist groups, these white supremacist groups, is making us less safe, Booker said during a March 27 CNN town hall in Orangeburg, South Carolina. When we asked Booker's campaign for evidence that Trump cut funding for the Justice Department to investigate terrorism, his campaign largely cited cuts to a separate agency, the Department of Homeland Security. And the cuts that Booker cited were grants that experts told us were for the prevention of terrorism, not the investigation of terrorism. The FBI, under the umbrella of the Justice Department, is the main entity that investigates terrorism. We found no evidence that Trump has cut back investigative funds for the FBI. When we asked about Booker's statement, his team pointed us to cuts to the Countering Violent Extremism grant program. CVE was launched under Obama to work with community leaders to deter U.S. residents from joining violent extremists groups. In the final days of Obama's tenure, the Homeland Security announced 31 groups would be awarded a total of $10 million in grants. The Justice Department was part of a CVE task force, but it was Homeland Security that awarded the grants. Once Trump took office, his administration froze the grants. Then, in June 2017, the Homeland Security released a list of 26 grant recipients. Some of the awardees named under Obama had dropped out, citing fears of anti-Muslim bias under the new president. Offers to other awardees had been rescinded. Two that drew attention: Life After Hate and University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Although both organizations proposed countering messages of extremists or jihadists, they also mentioned expertise in some specific areas. Life After Hate was founded by former neo-Nazis and skinheads, while UNC said it had expertise in far-right extremism and white supremacy. Homeland Security spokesperson said at the time that the applicants were rejected because they didn't meet new criteria like working with law enforcement. They were not, they said, rejected for their interest in countering white supremacist thought. Indeed, our review of the accepted projects showed that these grant applicants were strongly centered around working with Muslims, immigrants or refugees. White supremacists were scarcely mentioned. Trump faced criticism that the Countering Violent Extremism program was now too focused on Muslims, but the Obama administration faced the same critique, including from the liberal Brennan Center. The picture is more nuanced than, the Obama administration was going after white supremacists and the Trump administration stopped it. Faiza Patel, co-director of the Brennan Center's Liberty and National Security Program, told PolitiFact, neither went after white supremacists. The CVE grants will end in July and the administration has not requested additional funding, suggesting the grant program could end. Booker's spokeswoman also pointed to other Homeland Security programs that Trump proposed to cut, including the complex coordinated terrorist attacks. These grants were created following the 2016 terrorist attacks in Paris to help state and local jurisdictions to prepare for and prevent attacks. The grants expire in July. But experts told us that these grant programs are not intended to be directed at investigations. The main investigative agency is the FBI, and we couldn't find any available data that would show us whether the FBI has cut back on investigating domestic terrorism under Trump. I don't know of public information that would say one way or another. They don't publicize resource allocation at that level, said Brian Jackson, a Homeland Security researcher at the RAND Corporation who co-wrote a report for Homeland Security on terrorism prevention. David Gardenstein-Ross, an expert on terrorism and CEO of Valens Global Consulting Firm, was a senior advisor to the Director of Office of Community Partnerships, which oversaw the CVE program, under both Obama and Trump. He, too, said that these grant programs were not for investigations. There is no evidence at all that investigations have been cut. But Gardenstein-Ross said programs that are designed to thwart domestic terrorism play an important role, even when they are not investigative. Cutting such programs raises red flags among those who believe the federal government should do more to prevent domestic terrorism. We should be increasing our ability to work with state and local law enforcement to counter domestic terrorists, not inhibiting it, said Ryan Greer, who works on extremism issues at the Anti-Defamation League and formerly worked at the Department of Homeland Security. Booker spokeswoman Sabrina Singh challenged the notion that the anti-terrorism programs Booker referenced in his criticism of Trump were preventative, not investigative. "I think that is a narrow interpretation. It's clearly a partnership that helps with investigative work." Booker said Trump cut funding from the Justice Department to investigate these domestic terrorist groups, these white supremacist groups. For evidence, Booker pointed to cuts to programs from a separate agency, Homeland Security. He didn't cite evidence of funding cuts in the Justice Department. In addition, Booker cited as an example the Countering Violent Extremism grant program, which set to run out of funds this summer. This program funds terrorism prevention in local communities, not investigations. In 2017, the Trump administration did rescind two Obama-approved CVE grants to groups that had expertise in neo-Nazis, far-right extremism or white supremacy. We rate this statement mostly false. https://www.sharethefacts.co/share/bc53d5912802477996AC873E91 published, Thursday, April 11, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. Researched by Amy Sherman. Edited by Rebecca Catalan. Ethlo subjects: crime, diversity, terrorism. CNN, Senator Cory Booker takes questions at CNN Town Hall, March 27, 2019. Obama White House, Fact Sheet, February 18, 2015. Trump White House, National Strategy for Counterterrorism, October 2018. U.S. Department of Justice, Countering Violent Extremism Task Force. Fact Sheet, January 8, 2016. U.S. Department of Homeland Security, statement by Secretary Jeh Johnson announcing first round of DHS's Countering Violent Extremism grants, Jan. 13, 2017. Countering Violent Extremism grant applications, Life After Hate and University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, 2016. Rand, Practical Terrorism Prevention, 2019. Reuters, White House budget slashes Countering Violent Extremism grants, May 23, 2017. Star Tribune, Anti-Terror Recruiting Project awards grants to 6 Somali American groups, March 11, 2016. Pacific Standard, An Alternative Approach to Preventing Extremist Violence, March 4, 2019. Brennan Center for Justice at New York University School of Law, CVE resource page, last updated October 2018. The Atlantic, Trump shut programs to counter violent extremism, October 29, 2018. NBC News, Trump admin will apparently not renew program to fight domestic terror, October 31, 2018. Chico Enterprise record, is Trump administration focusing on Islam and ignoring neo-Nazis? July 9, 2017. The Atlantic, Trump hobbled efforts to counter violent extremism, October 29, 2018. The Hill, Trump cuts funds to fight anti-right-wing violence, August 14, 2017. New York Times, U.S. Law enforcement failed to see the threat of white nationalism, November 3, 2018. CNN, domestic terrorism programs would be cut under Trump, November 1, 2017. CNN, DHS shifts focus of funding to counter violent extremism, July 4, 2017. Heritage Foundation, building an effective approach to terrorism prevention, February 14, 2019. Foreign Policy, Terrorism, You Get What You Pay For, November 1, 2018. PolitiFact, Donald Trump doesn't think white nationalism is on the rise. Dish Show Otherwise, March 20, 2019. Interview, Sabrina Singh, Cory Booker campaign spokeswoman, March 28, 2019. Interview, Corey Dauber, University of North Carolina professor of rhetorical studies, April 2, 2019. Interview, Brian Levin, director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, April 2, 2019 interview, Faiza Patel, co-director of the Brennan Center's Liberty and National Security Program. April 2, 2019 interview, David Gardenstein Ross, an expert on terrorism and CEO of Balance Global consulting firm. Gardenstein Ross was a senior advisor to the director of the Office of Community Partnerships, which oversaw the CVE program, under both Obama and Trump. Interview, Seamus Hughes, Deputy Director of the Program on Extremism at George Washington University. April 4, 2019 interview, Dimitrios Kalantzis, Life After Hate spokesman. April 3, 2019 interview, Ryan Greer, Director for Program Assessment and Strategy at the Anti-Defamation League and formerly worked at the Department of Homeland Security. April 3, 2019 U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Background Information. April 3, 2019.